With fewer than 50 news cycles left before the big E-Day, Hillary Clinton seems to be making at least a slight shift in her messaging plan. Instead of mainly, or really only, trying to disqualify Donald Trump, she is adding a positive track, talking more about herself, what she's done, and what she'd do as president. That was exactly what we saw today with her speech in Orlando, Florida, the focus of which was on helping people with disabilities be a bigger part of the workforce, as an example of her broader goal of building what she calls an inclusive economy.
First, we're going to focus on jobs and incomes. I'm going to fight to give more Americans with disabilities the chance to work alongside those without disabilities and do the same jobs for the same pay and benefits. Second, we're going to work with our colleges and universities to make them more accessible to students with disabilities. Third, we're going to partner with businesses and other stakeholders to ensure those living with a disability can get hired and stay hired. As part of that, we'll launch a new effort we're calling Autism Works to help people with autism succeed in the workplace. Fourth, let's build on the success of the Americans with Disabilities Act by finally ratifying the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities.
Long before that speech, or a little before that speech at least, Clinton started off her day with an op-ed in the New York Times highlighting aspects of her economic resume and framing the presidential race as a choice, quote, between an economy that works for everyone and an economy that benefits the well-off at the expense of everyone else. We have talked a lot on this show about how Clinton has struggled to articulate her own theory of the case about where the American economy stands and what has to happen with it. We are not the only ones who've noticed that. A brand new NBC News Wall Street Journal national poll has Clinton with a 7-point lead among likely voters in a two-way matchup, 48 to 41%. That margin shrinks to 6 points in a four-way race. She's ahead in both, though. But when asked who would be better at handling the economy, more registered voters said Trump over Clinton, 46 to 41%. So, Mark, you were down there in Orlando at Hillary Clinton's speech. How do you think she did?
She did just fine in terms of speaking from her heart, talking a little bit about the story of her mother's life, which she's gone to many times to try to explain to people her perception of the country. She talked a lot about people with disabilities who she's known and some prominent examples. It was a very moving speech in some ways, but it does highlight the fact that she continues to not, I think, reach for a way to kind of bring all the strands together and talk about how she'd be a great jobs president. It's a real vulnerability for her. And while she spoke from the heart today, and it was a perfectly serviceable speech, and she talked about issues that are really important to her, I still think she's vulnerable to this because Trump talks a brash game. And on jobs right now, I think a lot of voters are looking for brash.
Well, I think there's still work for her to do, and there's no question if she's going to make an inclusive economy the theme, the broad theme under which she wants to kind of flesh out her theory of the case and her economic argument, she has a lot more work to do because it's a potentially powerful theme. She has not yet kind of laid it all out with the kind of clarity that she might, but it is a potentially powerful theme. And the problem for Donald Trump, I agree, he talks tough on jobs, but as you know, many economists, both Republican and Democrat, think that Trump is by far the weaker candidate when it comes to economics. Voters do not. So the question is whether Hillary can build her own argument and also lay bare the weaknesses in his economic arguments that a lot of professional economists see.
Yeah. Look, I've been watching her since the early 90s, and this is her last event before Monday's debate, at least as of now, last public event. I think just reading her body language and her presentation today, I think her head's in a very good place for the debate. I think she feels she's got a pretty good balance between talking about herself and her own vision for the country, but also trying to take down Donald Trump. So if I were her folks, I'd be encouraged, at least for what today suggests about the debate.